Hi there and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing the process for a scrapbooking page that I made this morning. I'm using the Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine for one of the main pieces on this page. I'm going to be die cutting a geoflower that will hold my title. And so I'm starting just by talking a little bit about this machine. If you want to know a little bit more about this machine, I will link in the information section below and also in a card a video that I do that talks about that machine in quite a lot of detail. Now I'm using the hip kit from the month of September here, and I just test cut a geoflower using the die cutting machine when I first got it. So I just have that to keep track of the size of the title that I'm going to be making. And I'm just having a look through the pattern papers that come in the kit. And I'm thinking, first I thought that these shapes might make a nice background for that shape, like kind of to make the tiles out of different patterns from the Paige Evans paper there, but I decided against that. And then this title piece here, or phrase card, really caught my eye. I really like the phrase on it. It says, "You've got to be a beginner before you can be anything else." And then the other cut apart that I cut out there is one that says "start here," and then in brackets it says "don't stop." I have a photo of all of the cooking supplies for my HelloFresh box, and I'm going to be scrapbooking that. I printed it at home on my Epson PictureMate Charm printer, and it is printed at 3.5 by 3.5. So here are the dies that I'm going to be using. It comes with that large geoflower die, and then it also comes with one each of the, like there are 3 different shapes that make up the mosaics inside of that geoflower, and so there's one each of those extra shapes as well. And I'm going to be using this pink paper, and I tried to position it such that you could see a little bit of variation in the paper so that it wasn't just all on the dark part or all on the light part, but that I'm trying to cut it out on both the dark and the light so that you get a bit of an ombre effect from it. And then I decided to cut out the geoflower shape itself, like the structure of the shape. So I'm going to cut the tiles out of the pink paper, and then I'm going to cut the shape itself out of the gray. So I will run this through twice, once with the gray paper, of which I'm just going to throw away all the little triangles, and then once with the pink paper, in which I will throw away the skeleton shape of the shape. So there's that skeleton shape there that I'm going to be using. I'll just get rid of all of those little gray triangles and diamonds, and now I'll run it through again. This time I'm just going to keep the diamonds and triangles that come out of this pass. I'm going to leave it all in place just because I won't be using it until a little bit later, and I didn't want to lose any of the triangles. So I'm just putting it aside off of my scrap space so that it doesn't get lost. And I'm going to use this center from the gray piece. It's actually not going to be on my layout, but I'm using it as I guess a placeholder for the shape so that I can know how big my title needs to be. My title is going to be HelloFresh, which is the name of the food box that we get. So it's like a cooking food box delivery service where you get all of the supplies that you need to make 3 meals a week. And we've been doing this. This is our 2nd week, and so I wanted to scrapbook just this photo of all of the supplies out on my kitchen. This is a really new thing for me. I used to cook quite a lot, but I haven't cooked much in the past 10 years or so. So, because my husband was a stay-at-home dad for a while, and then he was working part-time, which still allowed him to do the majority of the cooking. And now he's working full-time. I'm working full-time too, but I work nights enough that I'm home some days, so I do the majority of the cooking now, so it's quite a change for us. I'm just looking through my letter stickers because I want to put the word fresh in a different type of font. I want it to be smaller than the word hello, and I love these Avalicious puffy stickers. I also picked out some Ellie Studio letter stickers there too in that teal color, and I'll come back to those before the end of this project. Although I didn't know it at this point. I thought I was just choosing the white letters and going with those. So that's how the title looks. I will fix it around a little bit. It's not going to look exactly like that, but that gives me a sense of how it'll look when it's on the page. So I'm just slipping those letter stickers that came in the kit back into the 6x12 bag that I keep it in. I repackage most of my large letter stickers. And I'm just thinking about what papers I'm going to use for layers here. I really love this floral paper. I love the colors in it, but I don't think it's going to work on this page, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. First, I'm picking a background, and I decided to go with a white cardstock background. I don't often use white cardstock, so this is a nice chance for me to do something a little bit different. It's not unheard of. I do use some white cardstock, but it's not my go-to background. I like ledger paper and wood grains and really subtle patterns as my background papers, and sometimes I do go with a bold pattern paper, but I almost always use pattern paper as my backgrounds. So now I'm just coming up with the design for this, and I had no real ideas other than I want to use the geoflower and I want to use that photo. So I have to play around a little bit here, just doing some trial and error to see what's going to look nice together. And I really like this paper because the pattern, the white pattern on the pink, really reminds me of the geoflower. It's not exactly the same shape, but it really has a similar look to it. It looks very geometric. And then this paper was just, it had already had a couple of chunks torn off of it, and it was just sitting on my desk, and I thought, you know what? I kind of like how naturally torn that looks, as opposed to all the rectangles that I usually layer together when I'm doing a page. I just thought that this gave me something really different, and I really love the way that this shape is going to end up looking on this page. It's just like a random non-square, non-rectangular, non-circular. I just like it for something different. I'll take my scissors to trim off the parts of that paper that hang over the edge, and look at that. I think that just looks awesome. And so I don't know what took me so long to try a page like this that doesn't have rectangles on it. But here I am, this many years into my scrapbooking, finally just using a big chunk of scrap paper. So here's this phrase that I mentioned how much I like. I really love the phrase, but it's so large. I find these journaling cards or these phrase cards so difficult to work with. They're just so darn large. So I'm going to stop and think about that. And in the meantime, this one is much easier to work with, so I'll trim it down now. And I think I'll put it right there. And it'll point to maybe where my journaling goes. I'm thinking that some journaling might go right underneath of that geoflower and maybe over to the right a little bit. I'm still thinking about what to do to get that phrase. I thought about maybe fussy cutting around it. I thought it might look nice just kind of randomly torn, just like that star paper is. And those papers came in the hip kit for the month of August. No, September. It's September. Sorry. There are also some wood veneers from Paige Evans. I think all those papers are from Paige Evans. The wood veneers are from Paige Evans and from the Pink Paisley collection. And then these die cuts are also. And that's from the collection called Turn the Page. So I'm just picking out any die cuts that I think might fit. I have the die cuts and I also have the journaling cards from that collection. They all came in the kit. And I'm taking anything that might work with the color scheme, and I'm also kind of trying to err on the side of geometric shapes. Oftentimes what I like to do is combine a geometric shape with an organic shape and then with a something like a classic shape like a stripe or a polka dot. But this time I'm gonna err towards the side of using almost all geometric shapes, and I consider that star paper a geometric. You saw me pull out my eraser and erase something off of that star paper. I thought there was a mark like a stain on the paper, but it's actually the paper is made to look a little bit distressed, and that's what I was seeing. So this journaling card up here in the top left-hand corner here, it's obviously too large, but I really like it. What I love about it is that it does bring in a little bit of floral, and it also brings in all the different colors on the page. And I really do like at least one part of my page to have something multicolored that just pulls together the other elements, because right now, you know, the pink paper is only pink and the green star paper is only green, and there's not a whole lot of elements that really pull everything together. So I'm going to resize this journaling card in a few different ways. First, I just cut it and I'm kind of layering it upon itself so that it has fewer lines. And then I'm cutting right along that gold line, and I'm going to scooch up the floral part so that less of the floral part is showing. It makes it much, much short and stubbier looking. And I like that. I like how that looks. And it gives me enough room to put a phrase or some journaling, and but it doesn't extend into the main part of the design. So I want to put, I'm actually thinking what I'll do is I'll put that "you've got to be a beginner" phrase that is too big to use as it is on that card. And I'm just going to make that phrase myself on this journaling piece. And so I want to emphasize the words beginner and else. So I'm going to put beginner right here on the tag. And then again, this is just that shortened tag that you just saw me make. And I often resize things by doing that. I just cut a straight line right through it and fold it over itself. And it's a great way to resize tags and banners and anything that has a non-obvious, like as long as it doesn't have a pattern that makes it obvious that you've cut it. And I could have made it shorter that way too. So I'm using my thicker alignment tool here just to place those letters in the center of this cute little tag. I love how stubby it is now. And I'm using my pencil just to pre-print out my phrase so that I know what size I need to write. It says, "You've got to be a," and then above the word beginner. And then I just had to tidy that up a little bit. Some of my pencil marks were showing. And then I decided to just go ahead and print this just out without practicing. So then I spelled out, so under beginner, I put "before you can be anything." And now I'm spelling out else with those same LE Studio letter stickers. And I just have to put the L so that it fits in the right part, like in the right place, so that it's not covering up that little dangly part of my N from above. And that looks nice. So now I've decided to add some sewing to this just to give it a little bit more texture and interest. So I'm just going to sew straight over the word beginner and then straight over the word else. And I'm just using a straight stitch, just a medium length straight stitch. And I'm using my Genome New Home sewing machine, which I love. I love how lightweight it is. I'm going to trim up my threads, but I am going to still let them hang a little bit. So about 1 centimeter or so of the threads will show, just because I like that messy look. And I needed to bring something else from the main layers up here. So I grabbed this piece of the pink paper that I used on the layer below, and I just left the manufacturer's strip on it because I think it looks really interesting like that. I'm hanging it off the edge of the page just a little bit, much less than I had originally planned. And I'm just making sure that this embellishment cluster is balanced in terms of the space between it. I want it to be big enough that it looks balanced with the space at the bottom of the page as well, which is what I was kind of gesturing there. So when I put sewing on one part of a layout, I really like it to be on another part, especially when I'm, like, if I'm putting it just on the title or something that's central enough to the page that's okay for it to be only in one place. But if I put it on something secondary, like up in that secondary cluster there, I want to put it in another secondary place too, at least, maybe even 3. But in this case, I'm going to go with it, sewing in 2 places. And so I will place this back where it was before, which is just scooched in between the photo and the gray mat around it. I used some foam adhesive just to pop up the ends of that banner so that it has a little bit more dimension. And I'm using some Tombow Mono Multi adhesive here to glue this piece down. And now I wish I had glued it down a little bit better. As I was putting it down, I thought it doesn't have to be perfect. This glue is really strong and it'll hold it. But what I've decided to do is like a tiling effect here. And in order for this to look really nice, the gray part really should be adhered down quite well, because I'm going to have to glue it down where it's lifting. In order for it to look like the gray is the grout and the pink is the tiles, I don't want the gray to be lifting, right? Because then it doesn't look like grout anymore. And so now I just put a little bit of that strong glue on a scrap piece of paper. It happens to be the cast off from the geoflower die cut. And I'm just using a little craft toothpick to adhere the glue both to the parts of that geoflower frame that keeps lifting, because I didn't do a good job of gluing it, and also to the tiles themselves. And I am doing it in the order in which, like, I left the geoflower mostly intact on my die cutting plate because remember, it is that ombre effect paper that gradually goes from a dark pink to a light pink, and I don't want to lose that effect, which I will lose if I mix up all those pieces. So there are 3 shapes here. There's a large diamond shape that's towards the center of this. It almost looks like a little pathway, like a little circular pathway. And then there are some almost equilateral triangles around the outside edge, and then a little isosceles triangle around the inside edge. Just going for some more glue because I'm using it all up. And this glue does dry to clear, so it's going to look quite nice on this page. And so there are a couple of different ways that you could get more dimension on this. If you wanted your tiles to be up a little bit, you could actually layer another layer of, like, you could run this through the machine again and get another copy of all of those tiles and then just place them on top of the ones that are there. That way the grout, the gray part, will look more like sunken in grout, but I wanted it to look all kind of the same at the same plane. So I left it as it is. Another thing that you could do is if you ran that same die cut through again with the embossing mat and the embossing plate, then you'd have a little bit more texture around the edges of those tiles. Like they'd be a little bit flatter close to the edges of the gray paper and then kind of puff out a little bit more in the center because of the way that die cut is, because of the way the die is. And then the other thing that I could have done is I could have just put one piece of paper behind the gray and then cut around it so that it was kind of like one solid ring, I guess it would be, and the gray piece would be sitting on top of it. I like that look, and I often do that, but I wanted to do this inlaid look because I haven't done this before. So I wanted to try something new. It's not really a new technique. There's lots of other people doing it, but I haven't done it before, so it's a new to me technique, and I wanted to give it a try. So I'm going to play around with these letters for the word hello a little bit here. I really love this font, but the word is just slightly too big for the space that I have here, but that's okay. It's still working okay. I like how casual it looks when those letters overlap one another like that. And then those Avalicious puffy sticker letters are really cute there as well, but I'm thinking I'll want to put this teacup right beside the word fresh. I think that looks nice right beside the word fresh. I wasn't drinking tea while I cooked, but I often do, so it's relevant, sort of. Not everything has to be super relevant either. You can just put the teacup on because you like the teacup. That's okay. And I'm just scooching things around a little bit to make it look like it fits there, or to force it to fit there. The leg of the H is overlapping the gray just a tiny bit, but that's okay. Then I had this extra frame in pink that I didn't use, and I thought it might make a nice accent because right now that is the only dark pink on the page, and I want to bring some more dark pink into this secondary cluster. Sorry that I forgot to zoom out. I think I zoom out pretty soon. Or I at least scooch my project down a little bit. So I just want a little piece of this. It doesn't have to necessarily look like another circle or anything, but just this little bit of geo stuff sticking out. I can't really call it a geo flower anymore when it's just a little piece of it like that. But that just brings some of that up there. And then I thought to make it a threesome, I'd put one down here as well. I'm just, again, this doesn't have to sit flat, so I'm just using the tiniest little bit of that super sticky glue there. And that just gives me a third place for that pink paper to show up. These are chipboard stickers from the Turn the Page collection. And another chipboard butterfly shape there. So I'm just embellishing around the title here. I'm not doing a whole lot of layering, just spreading out my embellishments. I really like that little teacup, but it's too dark. Everything on this page is quite light at this point. This is one of those pages that's not going to have any black on it. I usually put some black on most pages, but in this case, that gray is about all the contrast we're going to get. It's going to be a very light colored page. I'm thinking about what puffy stickers I might want to put, and basically I need to repeat some of the elements from around the title to the other two secondary clusters. So I have one down here over to the left of the page, starting with that little star there, and then there's a little phrase that says, "It's the little things." And now these are those wood chips again from Paige Evans from the Turn the Page collection. I like those, so I'll spread those around in the 3 different places too. And I don't want to go overboard, but I do want to have a few things over here on the left side. Oh, that was a little bit too much, so I think I'll just have the heart up there. I don't need the plus sign. Yeah, take off the plus sign. There we go. So this is pretty much how it's going to look. I'm going to use some more of that Tombow glue here to adhere these wood pieces down. The chipboard pieces already have adhesive on the back of them. And there we go, the heart up in the top corner. So now there's repetition. There's some wood in each of the corners, and there's some pattern paper in each of the corners, and there's some of that geo flower in all 3 of the clusters as well. I thought at first about using this, what looks like it's kind of like a yellowy orange, or maybe an orangey yellow. It matches my sweater quite nicely, but I really don't like the look of it. And what I'd rather do than introduce so much of an orange color, what I'd rather do is pick up on that darker pink. And this washi tape here is almost the exact same shape. It also has polka dots on it, which kind of coordinates with the fact that there's polka dots on that pink pattern paper as well. So I'm going to put some strips here for journaling. And scooch it around a little bit. I basically want it to look like it's sort of right justified here. Tearing off some pieces over on the right, and I like how that looks. It's going to give my journaling a nice little home. And just brings a little bit more of the pink. So I'm using my Staedtler Lumo Color pen, which is a slick surface pen, which I do recommend that you use when you're going on washi tape. Some washi tape can take regular pen and some cannot, so I always err on the side of caution and use a slick surface marker so that it doesn't smudge off by accident. My journaling says, since Scott is working full time now, we decided to give meal boxes a try. Everything you need comes packed in a box delivered to the door. There was a little bit of a gap between my journaling there and the photo, so I just added that really adorable chipboard flower. I was hoping I'd get to use that on a page. So now I feel like this is a little bit too clean looking, so I need to messy it up a little bit, and boy do I mess it up. I'm using some Heidi Swapp Color Shine in gold, which I haven't used for a while. I've been kind of getting away from splatters. I was off splatters for a while. Now I'm coming back around to them. I love this inexpensive brush because it has really firm bristles. I didn't do the great, I hate it when splatters do that. See how they made a bit of a line there in 2 spots? But anyhow, that's all right. I will add some more splatters to make up for the fact that those splatters look a little bit too organized, the ones underneath the journaling there. And what I love about the firm bristled brush that's just from Michael's, and it's very inexpensive, but because the bristles are so firm, you can actually rub your thumb around it. You'll see me do that in a few minutes. You can rub your thumb along it and get some really fine splatters there. Oh, I'm using my finger there, but I'm just flicking it like you would a toothbrush to get really, really fine splatters. And I think you'll be able to see those on the close-up photos. I hope you can see them on the close-up photos that are coming right up in just a second. I just had to let that mist dry, and I put the mist in the 3 spots where there are embellishments. And so the photos are coming right up right now. So here it is. And there's just a really fine mist, especially around where those journaling strips are. And the camera just didn't quite pick it up quite well enough. Maybe on the next angle you'll get to see it. I hope you get to see it. And there is the top cluster. I'm so glad that I was able to get that phrase on the page because I really like it. It's sort of about starting afresh. Even though I used to cook, it feels like I'm starting all over again. And there you get to see just that really fine splattering all over around where the journaling is, and even onto the geoflower. I really like that. I even got some of it on the photo, which I actually quite like on a photo like this. It's not a person, so I don't have to worry about it being on their face or anything like that. Thanks again to scrapbook.com and Spellbinders for providing me with some of the supplies for this video. Thank you for letting me be a small part of your scrappy day. If you like this video, please hit the like button and comment and subscribe for more videos from me.